Welcome, my friends. Welcome. It's another Thursday. You know what that means. For those who haven't been here, this is Inside Star Citizen, our weekly look into what Star Citizen is doing in development. I'll react to them, you can react to me, and we can all get caught up on what's going on. No idea what this is. Settlers of Stanton. This could be about maybe... Okay, it looks like it's about derelict settlements. Interesting. I thought it was going to be about the gangs of Stanton, which was going to be pretty interesting. Settlements should be cool, though, too. This is something that they had mentioned a few months ago that they really haven't talked about since then, and I was wondering if they were going to put this in. I've been asking around, haven't heard anything, so this might talk about the new derelicts coming in 3.19 that they had mentioned before. Let's get caught up. Thanks for joining me.
Populating the surface of Star Citizen's planets and moons is no small endeavor. From the tiniest of easy habs to the largest of landing zones, creating new places where players and NPCs alike can gather to buy and sell, collect and trade, create and destroy, oh my, is essential to our continuing efforts to expand gameplay opportunities within the persistent universe. And with the
I just realized the sign behind him says, "What did we learn?" I think I saw that before, but I forgot it did. God.
To our continuing efforts to expand gameplay opportunities within the persistent universe. And with the upcoming Alpha 3.20, members of the Montreal Sandbox team are doing just that with the newest edition of Derelict Settlements.
Oh man, they were talking about adding age to them. They were talking about different cycles of wear. I really do hope that we see some interesting things with this in 3.19.
Since the last time we talked about these derelict settlements, we've been progressing quite well. We started with maybe one settlement last time we spoke, and now we're up to about 15 fully fleshed settlements with a unique look, narrative, and theme around them.
It's not bad. I think they said they were aiming for like 35 or something.
The longest part is just finding a theme and then scouting these really epic locations throughout the maps, throughout the planets. And then we try and match the theme. Okay, what theme fits with this location? Let's say we're looking at cool mountaintops with really nice vistas, cool sunsets that are like on the side of a lake or a river, or just a little like a water source on the top of the Alps with like snow and everything.
You know, because people like to crash in pretty places.
So we come up with these themes, and then we come up on the side with these really cool locations, and then we just like, okay, what can we match together? Let's find a cool name with them, and how do we make these unique settlements? You could easy see yourself like spend your life with your wife or your husband or whoever you want.
Oh God. Your romantic getaway, everybody. Your honeymoon in the grass prairie. Honestly, this looks like a straight up town, though. I really, really hope, I know these are the locations, guys, but I hope they give us an idea of what they're going to populate these locations with, because I know outposts and cities and stuff are going to have a lot of NPCs. Are these places? Are these all going to be gangs? Are they going to have mission givers? Like, what are their plans for the derelict settlements?
See yourself like spend your life with your wife or your husband or whoever you want to play with, and just take it easy.
Tell us about some farming.
My third favorite settlement would probably be the one beside the lake. It's a small settlement, as if like one person had a small little ship. He was by himself. They landed in the woods, but near enough to a little lake. And he's like, I'm going to make this little, almost like a fishing cabin on the side of the lake and live this super peaceful life. It has a few little habs that are just like basically for shelter for like shaded areas where they maybe has a little workbench or a little table that they're making like crafting elements.
I'm going to have a long talk with some lore folks about this. I don't know. The derelict settlement idea is cool, but lore-wise, I'm not sure how I feel about somebody just like crashing near a lake and being like, I'm just going to rip my ship up and make a cabin. I mean, maybe somebody else did it. But I could... Yeah, I don't know. Need a little lore convincing on that one.
He also built like a little dock so he can like maybe fish there at night. We planted a couple little...
Gameplay-wise, it's cool. Don't get me wrong.
Harvestables as well along the coast of the water. He has his little house to himself. He builds as he wants. Maybe players can come and visit, but it's like a really social kind of small little settlement where I could definitely see myself living if I crash my ship. That's what I would probably do, just make my one little shack and build a
give
little
up.
dock and just look at the sunsets at night kind of thing.
Just give up and don't go home. Just stay where you crashed.
The next most visually advanced one, we nicknamed it Cable City. There's a lot of wires, so they connect a lot of the solar panels, the windmills to all their habs. It's like overlooking this really cool lake down below. So we thought like it'd be a good idea to bring like the humidity aspect into it. So the terrain, we tried to make it a bit more muddier. We had like tracks of vehicles that went by. The terrain is just a lot more worked, a lot more detailed. So it just makes it feel like, yeah, the people are working there, or there's vehicles going by on a daily basis. They're probably scavenging like a ship that's nearby. We haven't really placed a ship for that one, but like it just story tells really well. Yeah, this a really badass vista with the clouds and the lake and the fog that lifts up in the morning. It's just a really nice one that came together super quick and super well. So I'd say that one is probably the second most fleshed out that I really like. The kit and all our
This is what I
object
want to hear
containers have
about.
been growing exponentially, which is making our work a lot faster.
See, this is everything before this was a trailer. This is what the whole in my opinion, this is what the whole episode needs to be about. We need to understand how this is going to scale. That's the most important question with Star Citizen right now. We can clearly see that they know how to build this stuff. Like they've proven that. We were waiting for a while. They've got locations and they're working. Now we need to know, how are you guys going to make this work across dozens of planets and different environments with different humidities and specific locations? If you're placing these next to lakes and stuff, how are you going to combine that into the planet making process? Hope they go into that a little bit more here.
We're a bit more efficient, and we can use our Rastar tool to populate these settlements a lot quicker. We're building these kits as we go, so like every new settlement or every new theme that we find that we're missing little elements for like pathways, some visual keys that makes them a little bit more unique.
That's
so
cool.
As we go, we're increasing the size of the kit because we keep adding a couple more per settlement.
That's so good. It's fantastic to hear that they're just continuously adding more assets.
As these settlements grow, we get to also share with the new settlements that come in. So we're able to do really small settlements, but also go into these really, really large settlements where it's almost like fortresses or small villages. Now we have some that are like fully fortified. We have added gameplay like where we can play King of the Hill. We got other ones with like turrets, defense wall.
This straight up looks like a base from like Rust. This looks like it would be a fantastic mission area. I mean, it looks like a mission area in an open world game. Just plopped up here on a hill. That's pretty cool.
Play like where we can play King of the Hill. We got other ones with like
Sorry about
turrets, defense walls, security gates, but everything's still in derelict kind of shape, a bit more like Mad Max, where it's not abandoned, but like they use ship parts, and these things are still decaying over time through the harsh weather conditions on these planets. These settlements that have been like there for like 100 years. Others that maybe the spaceship just crashed and like they just started building a village for the last couple of years. Some people would make something that's a bit more fortified to defend against nature and all the elements. Maybe some people would make like a bar just to invite their friends over, expecting to be rescued soon enough, I guess, or within the next several years. So we have like a bunch of farms, we have greenhouses, we can have like hostile...
Wait. Get rescued in the next several years. See, this is why we need the lore backing this up. Because, like, how does this fit into Stanton, which is one of the most populated systems in human space?
We can have also just social settlements now with a lot more...
I get that in Pyro.
A lot more assets to play with. My favorite settlement or outpost that we've created so far is the one deep in the forest. We nicknamed it like Ewok Village. Basically, you crash in a forest, so you're using all like what's around you, the elements. So there's a bit of lumber. So we're bringing a bit more organic feel to this settlement. I could definitely see myself building a nice little town in there that's nice and protected. It has these little half barricaded walls made out of lumber.
So another thing to keep in mind is, like I said, I don't know exactly what they're doing with these derelict settlements, but what we're seeing is kind of like what we've seen on ships, which is they built the ship and they kind of knew that things were going to be there, so they put those spots where they thought they would be, but eventually they had to rework the ships. Like we see now, they're making the physical component compartments. There are a lot of little things here, like you mentioned, the solar panels, the batteries, the power, maybe these computer components here. and like some of the farming equipment that we're seeing here that are probably going to get replaced in the same way in the future, because this stuff's going to be actual usable stuff, but right now it looks like it's all just kind of site dressing. That's sort of the weird way they have to build this game. They kind of do a lot of placeholder stuff, and you can see that that's going on here with the NPCs, with the missions, with even just the props and stuff around.
Town in there that's nice and protected. It has these little half barricaded walls made out of lumber, and it has all these drapes, these fabrics, these tarps that are playing in the wind. We have these old windmills that are in the background with fields of crops that they grew, but also it's a bit of like overgrown vegetation at the same time, because it's not like lined up perfectly. It's just like this little savage garden that you can pick some berries to survive or whatever. You have these big greenhouses during the winter season that you can actually grow stuff. You can also use these as harvestables. The player can go visit the greenhouses and just pick some things and add it to his inventory.
Very, very lightly treading on farming. Very closely. I wonder if these plants will be affected by... No, we don't have orbits yet. They're supposed to be affected by seasons. Not sure when that's going to happen.
And we really customized the art direction for each angle. So when the player approaches the settlement, we really have like either a big ship carcass that you can actually like go through, and then it showcases like the whole settlement to the player's eyes. And on the other side, it just shows like different elements and different little habs in the areas. So you know, like, okay, this is the farming side of the village.
Man,
this is the more like the town hall, or like this little bar side. They have like really nice paths that are developed. When there's mud, we put like little metal plates and panels so that the player, like, you can tell like it's clearly a path. And we define the main player paths, so it's a lot easier for the players to navigate, find like the lootables. So it just feels a lot more alive, this one, because we spend a bit more time. And this is basically our benchmark that we're aiming for. So it would be the forest settlement, my favorite. So yeah, that's wraps it up pretty much for the settlements where we're at. They're evolving quite rapidly now with our new systems and our new tools. So we actually reduced the size of the team because we don't need as many artists, just because our kit is actually quite large now. So with just a handful of artists, we can really produce like a lot of settlements within a couple-week period. I'm super excited to be able to show the players and share the awesome art that we've been creating over the last several years, actually. And yeah, I'll see you on the other side. I'll see you in the verse.
All right, no confirmation that it is in 3.19. I think originally they wanted it to be in 3.19. I'm going to probably edit in the clip of them talking about it here.
The Crash Derelict system is continuing to evolve as more and more locations are added to the standard system in the upcoming Alpha 3.19.
I'm really excited for these places. From what we were just seeing in that, I can just imagine this being like a place where you roll up in a bunk or in a rover, and just like the current mission in 3.19, like you lock a place down here, right? Maybe it's a drug dispenser like we've had. Maybe it's some kind of a data terminal like we're doing on the Microtech base. But you lock this place down, you're earning money, you're holding it off. Other players are flying in with ships. This stuff, oh man, I feel like almost Alpha is going to be more fun than the real game, because nobody's going to care about dying, so we could do stuff like this all the time. But I don't know. These are cool. I would love to hear now from some of the narrative team for sure, but also the missions features team on how these are going to be further used. And I'm guessing we'll hear more about that later, but that's kind of how it goes. These artists work on the location. The narrative team starts with the missions team to fill it with stuff. The features and tech teams make the features that those people use to fill it with stuff. So it's like a process, and we get to see it lay out on ISC. I do wish it was a little more clearly defined by them on ISC throughout the year. Like they could touch back on these derelict settlements and say, now we're doing this with this team. This is how this works. I think that's what they should be using ISC for, but I'm glad we get to see it. Let's move on.
See you in the verse. Have a great one.
Now, before these settlements arrive in the upcoming Alpha 3.20, there's still the little matter of Alpha 3.19, Invictus Launch Week, and
okay, so 3.20. Interesting. Maybe they were delayed. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. We'll see.
New vehicle manufacturer that's making its debut at this year's event. And even though the big reveal isn't until next week, let's go ahead and have a quick chat with John and Will to see what we can squeeze out of them maybe a week early.
We have a lot of ships and vehicles.
Because we need to use the week early. Next week is our... Like next week is all about our ship sales. It's about getting people hyped for the brand new ship and all that stuff. Why do we have to spend half the week before also doing it? Because in 2 weeks we'll be doing Alien Week, probably 2 or 3 weeks. So that's more ship sale stuff. Like we want to hear about features.
Vehicles in our game now. We're getting very close to, if not over 200 now. Keeping brands with a consistent theme is important because it helps immerse you in the universe. You see a ship of a certain style and role and you go, that's that manufacturer. And having consistent brand and manufacturers helps players give that initial read on what that vehicle is going to be. If they start branching out into every category under the sun, it sort of dilutes their visual identity and also their lore background. So having brands and sub-brands or entirely different brands helps strengthen that narrative. You look at it, you know, hey, it's that brand, it's going to roughly do this thing.
So this was kind of a journey
Kind of falls flat with the Reclaimer and the Orion. But I like that about them.
that started back when we introduced the Misk Razor, a racing ship underneath the Misk brand. And so we created this lore for them that one of the CEOs of the company had a real passion for racing. And so he kind of charged the company with coming up with their own version of the racing ship, which ended up being the Daedalus. And while that didn't quite take the Murray Cup as that CEO had hoped, a couple years later, the Razor came out and it was another attempt at them. The company itself was so excited and charged by the creativity that came out of developing the Razor, especially when paired with their groundbreaking Xi'an technology sharing program. They created a new division in the company, Mirai, pushing the aesthetics and the devotion to quality that Misk is known for into bold new directions.
Mirai is essentially a performance brand, and performance is quite a wide-ranging category. So not only do you have things like racers come under performance, but also more militarized and very obviously military-focused ships as well.
So while Mirai
So it looks kind of like a Razor with a larger set of
Not only do you
brushes
have
going on.
things like racers come under performance, but also more militarized and very obvious
because that's not the Razor in the back there. So this is the new ship we're looking at. Yeah, the Fury, I think. Mirai Fury.
military-focused ships as well.
So while Mirai might have gotten its start in racing, that's not going to be where it stops. There's
Oh no, that is the Razor. My bad.
a lot of possibilities
I'm a dummy.
for where we can take this brand in the future.
In introducing Mirai as a brand, it also gives us the opportunity to look back at the existing lineup of Misk ships and reevaluate whether they do still make sense to be in that brand or move to the new Mirai sub-brand. And as part of looking at this, it was clear that the Razor series
Is this? This isn't shot in engine, right?
Mirai
gotta
as a
be rendered.
brand, it also
It looks
gives us the opportunity
too
to
smooth.
look back at the existing lineup of Misk ships and reevaluate whether they do still make sense to be in that brand or move to the new Mirai sub-brand. And as part of looking at this, it was clear that the Razor series was the ideal candidate to move under Mirai as a brand.
As part of the conversation, we were also looking at the Reliant, and with its cool kind of hybrid cockpit and the way it rotates and really
So they're fixing Misk.
uses Xi'an tech, we were like, would this feel more appropriate as a Mirai ship? And going back and forth, it really was feeling more as an industrial workhorse that would fit better under the Misk brand. So the Reliant and the whole lineup of those ships will be staying with Misk. What kind of excites me about Mirai as a brand is this idea. We've seen this kind of blending of human and Xi'an technology already in Misk, and one of their charges is going to be taking it even farther. So the idea of these human ship designers looking at this Xi'an tech and saying, where can we take this? So it'll be really exciting to see what directions Mirai can take the grounding that Misk has provided them and take it even farther. So that was a little bit of info about our latest ship manufacturer, Mirai. I'm very excited for them. And if you want to learn more about the new brand and the ships they're developing, make sure to join us at Invictus.
So, what did we learn this week?
I mean, I get it. Like, if we didn't do that, the episode would have been 3 minutes shorter. I think it's just more the idea of having Invictus Week leak out of Invictus Week and into other stuff. I think Inside Star Citizen is valuable. I know they use Star Citizen Live as their sort of more in-depth, less eye candy explanation of the game, but Inside Star Citizen gives them a really good chance to paint a scripted, well prepared, and more commonly watched narrative to how this game's development works. It's freaking complicated. If we follow this game, you guys, plenty of you do, you follow it every day, you know how ridiculously complicated and frustrating this game's development is. And I don't feel like Inside Star Citizen does a very good job of communicating that. I think it certainly gives a good look into game development. It definitely tells us what's coming up in Star Citizen, and it introduces us to a lot of the devs. But I don't think it does the actual development process justice, which is kind of what Around the Verse used to do. And despite where we are with the game getting more like kind of casual friendly and being a little bit more widely watched and followed, I think this is like, they really need to continue to communicate why the game is progressing the way it is, because we're nowhere near close to this game being done. They're going to need to communicate for the next 4 or 5 years to people. We're still building it. This is why it's being built this way. This is how it's being built. Look back at our archive of Inside Star Citizen to learn. And they're going to look back and, like, you know, they'll see a little bit of this, but they're going to see a lot of explaining of locations that we already could visit in the game in 6 months. Not the, you know, behind the scenes engine stuff that we will never be able to see or touch. And I think that's important. Not to mention, you know, maybe not teasers for ships coming out in a week that we'll get probably a whole episode dedicated to. But that's just me complaining. This is my opinion of this episode. I think it was still a good look into new locations and a decent look into lore. I wish they could do these a little bit differently, but, you know, I'm not CIG. Let's see how they finish.
Week, well, we learned that there are about 15 new derelict settlements, each with their own look and narrative that are being added to the Stanton system in the upcoming Alpha 320. That more and more will be added in subsequent patches and provide new opportunities for gameplay across the surface of its planets and moons. And that there's something new in the future of Misk when Mirai arrives at Invictus next week. What is it? They'd be furious if I said.
Definitely looks more Xi'an. Look at that cockpit. I guess it's kind of like the Reliant. Yeah, definitely more of the Xi'an influence. Looks like they're going almost for the, this looks like a really, really small personal snub fighter. Reminds me of the, one of the TIE fighters, kind of, right? Just a little bit. Looks interesting.
For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for exploring the process of game development with us, and we'll see you all here next week.
All right. Well, we'll see what that new ship is next week. Join me for that one. I'll probably put a video out separately about it. But it's another ship that's straight to flyable. This is probably not going to make people happy. It is a small ship, which is good. That means it's accessible and actually useful, but still, it is a straight to flyable ship where we have other small ships we might be able to do. But we do need more starters, so I'm not mad about that. Like, off the top of my head, I can't think of any other starters we have waiting to be made. There might be 1 or 2, but we do need more small ships for people to have access to, so that's better than something like a Galaxy. But anyways, I'll see you guys next week. Keep an eye out for the video podcast, and have a good weekend.